Welcome friends. Today we are going to talk about a topic which will interest everybody. This is about our inflation, consumer price inflation. Now friends, every month the Ministry of Statistics comes out with a table like this. This is their website, and which this table is published every month. So the last was published on 13th November 2023. So this table is in a PDF format where the values of index as well as inflations for all three segments, rural, urban and combined, is calculated and is presented before us. Now also the Ministry of Statistics has a website with visualization of these inflation numbers. So I'll show you the website. So if you see the latest visualization which is available in the websites is starting from January to October. So where you can see all the three segments visualized, the combined inflation rate of those three segments is going down and then going up and then stabilizing. Similarly, the consumer price index is also plotted in a tabular fashion. And then all the segments, important segment, food, beverages, clothing, footwear, housing, fuel, light for rural, urban and combined is plotted together. Now all this is all good, but there is a problem here. The problem is the following. These numbers which are plotted in the website, though it is available with the Ministry of Statistics, but it is not available to us in a format which we can download easily and do our own processing. I'll show you why I am saying so. Now if you look at this table which I showed you just now, where is the table? Just a minute. So this table is in a this table is in a PDF format. I'll just show you the table. Just hold on for a minute. Yeah, this table is in a PDF format. Now, in order to extract these values from this table, we have to do some processing. So we have to convert this table from PDF to Excel, and then we have to process all these rows. And if you look at this data is given in a manner that all the segments are totaled and combined and presented as various main categories. Now this is not the format in which the data typically is processed in a visualization tool. You need to have the main categories and the subcategories in a separate column. Each and every row is tagged with a specific name category and specific subcategory. Now since this data is always available in this particular format, you have to do a lot of work. At least you have to spend 15 minutes of your time or maybe half an hour of your time to aggregate this data in a combined Excel sheet, which I have it here. I'll show it to you. So this is an Excel sheet which I have, which has got the rural index, the urban index, combined index, weights starting from the last 31st October, the end of October 2023 till 2014. So if we go down, the numbers are all available. So this aggregation has to happen each time the data is published. So what you have to do, you have to go and process it and then put it in this table. It takes a lot of time and is also prone to mistakes. So you can commit mistakes here. So instead of doing that, what I have done is that I actually have created a program, a Python based program which does this automatically. So what I am planning to do in this video is I'm going to take you through the program which does it automatically, what principles I have adopted in order to process this, and I'm going to show you a unique visualization approach of CPI which is going to give you more information, more insight than the visualization, the graphs which are available in the Ministry of Statistics website. So first let's start and look at this particular code. Now what this code is doing is, so there are various modules in this code. Looks very overwhelming, but you will understand what I am basically talking about. Instead of sharing this code, you can actually, once you look at this, you can basically do it by yourself, because today we have got a lot of help. ChatGPT is there. So there is no problem as far as coding is concerned. Only thing that we need to understand is the approach that we follow in order to do the coding. because the approach is the most important thing. The coding can be done by ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is not going to tell you the approach. Okay, so this is the first module. So what I am doing in the first module is whatever data that I have in this particular file, the data may not be properly structured. Means maybe at some point of time, some of the rows may go up, some of the rows may go down. So first, before I start processing this data and aggregating new data into this file, I have to organize this. I have to make this data in a particular format that a sequence is followed. General index, serial products. Because if I don't follow a particular sequence, then I will not be able to do the calculations later. It will become very complex. So what I have done is I have basically used a module which is the desired order. So I have laid out the data in a particular desired order, and I'm opening this file, and then I am sorting this file in this desired order. Once this desired order has been processed, the file has been processed in this desired order for all the rows and for all the dates, then it is ready for aggregating new data. Otherwise, it will be very confusing and it will create a huge amount of problems going forward. So that is point number one, which you need to take into consideration when you are dealing with such automated work, because it is not going to scale. So then I store it, I sort it, and then I'll finally basically sort this file, and then I'll process this further. The next module looks like a little overwhelming and confusing, but don't worry, let me just go one by one. Now here there are various functions which are being used to solve a lot of problems. Let me explain to you what I mean by this. Now if you look at this particular data, let me just close this, let it remain. I'll just show it to you. If you look at this particular data, you will find that this data has the general index down below, and in my file which is there here, I actually have used general index on the top. Look at this, general index is actually on the top. So what I have to do is that I have to basically make the file palatable to make the processing palatable to the way I am storing the file. So if I go here, if you look at this particular code, I am using one particular function to move general index up from position 23 to 0. So that is one of the function I am doing. The second problem that I sometimes face is when you do a conversion from PDF to Excel, the columns may get aggregated together. Means you will not be able to separate the columns. The data will get aggregated. For example, if you have a particular, let me just show you again, just a minute, it will become very clear to you. Now let's look at this particular file. Now you have two columns, this column and this column. But when you do the processing using an PDF to Excel conversion, sometimes these two rows will get clubbed together, and it will become very difficult for you to process the data. So you need to split the columns to assuming that it is clubbed. So it basically checks each and every column, it checks, and then it splits if it is needed. Otherwise you will never be able to automate this whole process. Then what happens is that you have to process this automatically. Means you have to get the links, the latest link of the PDF file from the website. So what it does is, this particular function is going to go, it is going to basically look for that particular website, pick up that link, and then start processing the data. This will pick up the most latest link, which is going to be on the top, right? Rest of the links are going to be on the bottom. And what I found was that all the links are not complete. You cannot do a complete processing by picking up all the links from the website. Link basically, I mean the following. Let me tell you what I mean by link is. Link basically means that when you go to this website of MOSPI, if you go here, and then if you go here, and then if you go to the main page, the landing page, you will find that in the landing page, I'll just go here again. In the landing page, you will find, just wait for a minute, let the page get loaded up. Sometimes it is very slow and I find it very difficult to do, juggle with so many pages simultaneously. It creates sometimes a problem. I don't know why it is so slow. Yeah, here it is. So you see that there is a link here. So you have to read this link automatically by going to the website, and you have to read this link. So that this particular tool, this particular thing does it automatically, right? Once it reads all the links, but I am basically picking up the only one because I can't rely on all the links because the data is incomplete here. It is not complete. So they have the data, but they give only one link, and rest of the links that you will have in this website, some of them will it is not continuous. It does not contain all the months, and even some of the links are limited to only recent number of months, maybe around next 12 months or maybe 15 months, not more than that. Then you have to extract the page text. Why you need to extract the page text? The reason you need to extract the page text is because you need to read this date, this particular, just a minute, I'll show you. Let me just close this. You need to read this particular date here from the file, because that reading the date also has to be automatic. Which date I'm talking about? I'm talking about this particular date, this date. So it has to read this date, because if you don't do this automatically, then it is going to become a manual process, and it will create it serves no purpose writing a code like this. So then you pick up the date, and then you do is you basically read the date here. So look, it is basically reading the report date. And then what it is doing is it is converting the report date to the last month date, because the report date may be 12th November, but the data is still 31st of October. So you need to convert that. So this particular function is doing that. And then it is extracting tables from the, because you need to extract, because there are so many tables here. If you look at this particular file, you will find that there are so many tables. So you need to pick up the right table for processing, right? So that particular, this program does it picks up the table and it basically starts processing it. And then what it does it goes to the main program. In the main program, it is doing nothing. It is picking up that file, this particular table. Here is the table. It is picking the table from here, and then what it is doing is it is doing two important things. It is deleting the last September 23 data because it was provisional. Because if you look at the last data, it's always like that. Because the current data, like the October 23 data, is provisional. Similarly, the September 23 data was provisional earlier. So you have to remove that particular block of data, and then you have to add the new data there. And then on top of it, you have to add October 23 data. If you don't do that, it is not going to serve any purpose. So therefore, this particular code is doing the whole processing by deleting that earlier data and then picking up the new data, and then and then you are adding. Then what you are doing is that you are adding the description of the old file to the new data frame so that the structure remains the same. So what you are doing is that you are picking up the description, because you have to pick the description also here, which if you remember that we had processed the description earlier in a particular order. So what it does is it goes into this file and it picks up this description, because there is no point in adding a new description. It will pick up this description and then it is going to add to the current data which it is processing, right? And then it adds some new columns here, right? So I'm basically, since I have to basically make the data frame look as if that we have to basically put new headers in that particular data frame. So this data frame for the CPI previous columns, as well as, so it is naming the data frames column with the description which I have provided here. And then it is appending the data frame to the main file. So it's appending it. And then finally what it is doing is it is basically processing and calculating the percentage basis point. Now this is important. Let me tell you why this is important, because knowing the inflation does not help. If you know the inflation does not help. Why? Because let me show you the final process data, or before that let me just show you the MSPI website. You will find that even if there is a higher inflation of a particular category, if the weight is low, then the impact of that inflation on the overall inflation, which is general inflation, will be low. So it is not important to know the actual inflation number for that particular category. What we have to know is that whether the weights associated with that particular category, like for example cereal and product, even if the initial inflation rate is 10.65, we need to know what is the weightage of cereal and product to the overall general inflation, which is 12.55% here. Similarly, meat and fish, it is 4.38%. So what we have to do is that we are not interested. See, I am not interested to know exact inflation of a particular category or a subcategory, I am interested to know that what is the impact of that particular category on the overall inflation, because that gives me an insight as to how much focus that I should be having in that particular category to control the inflation. Because otherwise, it is not of any essence. Because if a particular category, like for example egg, has a weight of 0.49, even if the inflation of egg is very very high, why should I waste my time unnecessary in egg? So this gives a very good insight as to what is the amount of focus that we should be having on a particular category, even if the inflation is high. So that is where the focus should be, and that information is not available in the MOSPI, that is the Ministry of Statistics website. So what I've done is that I have used the code to extract that information. I am doing some processing here, and then finally I am storing this in this particular file, which I am going to show you. This is the file which I am storing this information. So this is the file here. I'll just open this file and show it to you. Finally, where the information is getting stored. Yeah, this is the file. So you will find here what it is doing is it has not this file. Just a minute. It will take some time because so many sessions have been opened. So let me just close this file. Otherwise, that file is not. This is the file. So this is the file. Let me just show it to you. Let me just close this file. And then this file. So this is a file which I have. Finally, this is the file. So what I have done is that I have a subcategory in one of the columns. Then we have the date. Then we have the rural inflation weighted average numbers, which I told you. This is a general index, and then the various categories will have an impact on the general index by a percentage basis point, which is coming here. Similarly, this is the urban value. Urban numbers are there, and then this is the combined inflation numbers, which is in the column E, and then we have the weights. So this way, if you plot this in a heat map, you will get a very good insight as to what is going on. That's exactly what we need. We are not interested in the actual inflation number, because this will have another big advantage. The advantage that it will have is that you can change the weights depending upon what you think are the right weights. Because these weights are static since 2014. These weights might change, or it may change for a particular individual. You can play with these weights and we can decide that how much is the inflation impacting you as an individual, right? Based on your day-to-day activities that you are doing. Because these weights may not be static. These are quite generalized weights. So then you can play with these weights and understand the impact of the overall inflation on your life. So what I've done is that after processing this table from the raw data and extracting it automatically, I have plotted in Tableau this particular chart. Let me show you the chart here. Yeah, this is the chart. Now here you will see this particular chart. Let me just put my face out from the screen. Just a minute. Yeah, here. So here I have the combined inflation data heat map for the weighted average inflation. So this particular row is doing what? This is giving you the weights. The general index is weights. This is for the combined. This is a combined desk inflation, right? So you'll find that this is the weight. This is the weight I have. These are the category of item, and this is the latest inflation. So if you see the latest inflation, the combined inflation is 4.93%. Actually, this is not going to add up to 4. Actual number is 4.86%, by the way. So when I'm adding all the weighted average together, this should ideally add up to 4.86, but it will never add up. There will always be an error of 10 basis point or 20 basis point. That gives you indication that these numbers are not either accurate, or these weights are not properly defined to an extent that when you do the calculations, there are some distortions. So that distortion you will find. More the distortion means this basically points out that data is not accurate. So what you can do is that by looking at this particular data, you will be able to tell that what is the impact of cereal and product on the overall inflation. Like if you see here, the overall general index inflation is 4.93% from what to the total that if I add all this together, because every line item has got an impact of a certain basis point. So these are the basis point, right, for the latest years. So it shows that, oh my God, we have cereal and products basically having a huge impact on the overall inflation. And this impact, if you see here, if I go to let's say February 23, if you see that in February 23 the number was what? Though it is very dark here, but the overall inflation was very, very high, 1.161 basis point, and the combined inflation was how much? 654 basis point, right? Which is 6.54%. But here, though it is number is dark, not dark, it's light, but the impact is much higher on the overall inflation. And then by looking at this overall chart, which basically starts from April 24 till January 24, you can get a very good sense as to what is going on. One important insight which I am able to draw is that most of our inflation is driven by vegetables. Because if you look at vegetable, you look at this particular. September 19, the total combined inflation was of general index was 5.42%, out of which 40% was from vegetables. And this is a perishable item. There is no way we can store it, process it, and it kind of keeps impacting our inflation on an undulating fashion. Sometimes it pulls down the inflation, like for example in the month of March it pulled down the inflation by 30 basis points, but later sometimes it basically pulls up the inflation by 365 basis points, like what happened in January 19. And then there are patches of red, patches of blue all over the place, right? And by the way, this is a combined. Then you can go specific for rural, for example. I have rural here. You will find the rural also, the cereal and products and vegetables, very strangely, vegetables in rurals actually follows the same pattern what we see in urban area. Why should it be like this? Imagine the rural areas should have better access on vegetable. Why the inflation follows the same pattern as we see in urban areas? So look at this. See? Why? This is quite strange. There is something which is going wrong with our policy. We have to fix that issue, right? Similarly, you can look at all other aspects because this gives you a bird's eye view. And what you can do is that you can change these weights also and see how this particular view changes. Because these weights are, these weights, not these. These are basically percentage basis point. These are the weights. You can change these weights depending upon what you think should be the right, because these are static weights which have been fixed since 2014. So in my view, while processing the CPI data, looking at a static graph in isolation without combining that with the weights is not very useful. It does not give you the real picture. So you need to have a mechanism of processing this data automatically, because the data is not available in the most current form in any website. The RBI website also has a data which is pretty old. It's phase lagged by 2 months, 3 months, maybe 6 months. MOSP, the statistics website data is in such a format that it is not in Excel form which you can easily copy. So you have to have a mechanism that you press a button and the data gets populated and this chart gets populated. If you have that capability, then only you will be able to do all the work that you are doing from a policy point of view, or any financial analysis you are doing, or GDP analysis that you are doing. You will be able to do it fast. Otherwise, you will be dependent on many people, processing the data for you, presenting it in this format. Lot of issues. And not only that, there is one more aspect. There are a lot of other data which is available in this particular format. Once you understand this process, you can use the same process to populate your other data. Imagine the kind of efficiency that you will be able to drive into your work, daily. You're not dependent on anybody. You can do it all by yourself. So I think I have spent a lot of time in this video. I could not show you by running the code because the video would have become very, very long. So therefore, I wanted to give you an overview as to how this is done and what approach we should follow. Coding is not very difficult. Today, ChatGPT will allow you to give you the coding. But what is important to know the structure. What structure you should follow, what process you should follow, and how you should have your code, follow a particular sequence of steps so that it can scale. That's the whole idea of presenting this video. Thank you, as usual, for your patient listening. And next time I will come back with another video for an important topic. Thank you very much.